So everyone, we're live. I'm Gretchen Anthony, and I am the host of the Middle Book Club. And many of you are probably members of the Middle Book Club, and thank you for joining us. I have here the author of this month's book pick, which is getting a lot of chatter in the chat. Hot Not Bothered, and
Oh,
I'm known to plume Harper Ford, but it's actually Becca Mascull.
yeah,
How do you?
that's it.
Okay,
You got it first
okay.
time.
So thank you so much. Becca and I were chatting a little bit before we went live because I didn't know. I don't. I knew she was in the UK, but I wanted to learn a little bit more about her, and just happened to find out that she has a newsletter on Substack. And so then I connected with her on Substack, and immediately she found out that we were reading her book and volunteered to join us in some fashion. But you are in the UK, so it is what, 9 p.m.
Yeah,
for you?
yeah. And there's a huge thunderstorm going on outside. So if I keep going like that, that's why. But it's quite nice because it's humid here. So it's nice to get a bit of fresh air.
Yeah, yeah. Well, all right. Where to start? I'm going to try to be, even though I have 1,000 questions, be very respectful of Becca's time. And
Oh,
I'm going to
don't
try and
worry.
wrap this up
Yeah.
in about 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. But I am going to save time at the end for people's questions, people who are live with us. And then this entire video is going to be available for viewing on the Middle Book Club
Oh,
Substack site as well. So,
fab. And if
um,
we go over, it's not a problem. I'm okay. I'm all right for time. So don't worry.
okay. It's 9? Did we already cover this? It's 9 p.m. for
Yeah,
you?
it is. But I'm a night owl. So this is like when I start to wake up. So don't worry about
That's
it.
fortunate because, like,
Yeah.
by 9 p.m. I'm checking out.
Okay.
All right. So let's before we jump into just a brief synopsis of the book, and if you don't want to give an overview, I can do it because I didn't actually ask you to prepare for that. But I'm
Oh,
sure.
yes, you do it, please. Because, like, menopause brain, I've completely forgotten it. Because I wrote it more than a few weeks ago. So it's gone. So I'd much rather you did it.
Okay.
Please.
So the book, in the Middle Book Club, we read exclusively books about midlife heroines because have this. I made my last book, Tired Ladies Take a Stand, is the story of four best friends who are all midlife and in dealing with, midlife issues and things that just happen to us in these, juicy middle years. And as I was trying to find comp titles for the book, as we started doing the marketing, I realized just what kind of a glut there is in the market in our current day literature, because it's either like a coming of age story, where the woman is young and finding love or finding her feet, or we jump forward to, it's like we have this Miss Marple fascination. Suddenly we jump forward to when women are old and quirky and,
Mm,
in our 70s or something. And
mm.
there's I'm finding them, but there aren't nearly as many books about women in our stage of life. And if you are anywhere near our stage of life, we know how ripe midlife is for good stories. And
Mm.
we certainly found one in Hot Not Bothered. See, look at this. Look at all my tags.
I
I've
love that.
marked things. And this book came as a recommendation from Jennifer Jubenville, who is a bookseller up in Duluth, Minnesota, on the shore of Lake Superior at Vickers Books.
Wow.
And
Thank you,
yeah,
Jen. I just want to say, Jen, I'm so happy to hear that people are reading my book in the US. It's so exciting for me. So thank you so much for recommending it to Gretchen.
she didn't just recommend it. She was texting me, like,
Wow.
throughout the first several chapters. She's like, no, seriously, this book is so funny. You have to read it. So
Oh, that's so
in
great.
summary, the book is about Heidi Hobbs, who is a single mom, divorced, raising her two daughters, has a decent relationship with her ex. She goes to work one day and she just works for keep guys. She just works for men who think they understand they need to, explain the world to women, and finds out that they have created a menopause essentially support structure that allows, in order to support the women in menopause who work for the organization, which is the acronym spells out Muffy, which just made me laugh so hard. They are allowing these women to have a fan at their desks, and they have a pre-approved fan that the women can have, and it's something like 400 euros, something like that.
Pounds,
I mean,
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
insanely expensive.
There
And
it actually
Heidi,
exists. I looked it up. There is a real fan that costs that much. So I'm not, I didn't entirely invent that. I know. The thing is,
so
that letter is not based on anything particular. But since I've written that book, I've had messages from people saying my company sent the same kind of email, not exactly the same, but very
right,
similar. Yeah. Or
right,
worse.
just
Yeah.
clueless,
Mm,
workplace behavior where
mm,
they think they're being supportive and they're actually just giving away their ignorance. So
mm.
anyway, she kind of loses it and mistakenly, well, she lets her deepest thoughts fly in an email, and mistakenly somehow it gets sent. And so as sort of forgiveness and allowing her to keep her job, the leaders of said company invite her to start a menopause support group among her colleagues. And it turns into genuine friendship. The women who join with very, very real problems and
Mm.
issues, and help them through it. And then there is also a love story, second chance romance story going on in the background. And boy, would I love to talk to you about the end. We're not going to give it away, but
Okay.
I will just say it really, I wish I had written. Now I wanna go back to my last book and rewrite the ending scene, and just because I had a guy who came back,
Oh,
in my last book, and I just
yeah.
really wish I would have given him the what for, the way you did with your character. Um,
Okay.
so, yeah, so you inspired me, Becca. So,
Oh,
anyway,
bless you.
but this I want to start out by talking about that this is your first, I mean, this is considered what? Women's fiction upmarket? And you actually
Yeah.
write across several genres. I read in one of your notes that you write 3 books a year, publish 3 books a year, is that correct?
Yeah, I do at the moment, but it's not gonna last. I've done it for a couple of years now, and I know I'm heading for burnout, so I've got to be careful, and, I think I will, try and cut that down because I thought I
Mhm.
would try it and see, because I've been a single parent for a long time. I have a partner, but for a long time I was living alone with my daughter and having to make my own way. And I've also got a chronic illness now. I used to teach outside of the house, but I have to do all my work from home. So I thought I would try and write 3 books a year to bring in, more revenue. And it is possible, but that doesn't mean it's a good idea. Do you know what I mean? So
Yes, I do.
I have done it. I've done it last year and I've done it again this year, but I don't think I'm going to carry on unless something, special happened. If I got offered something that I couldn't say no to, if you know what I mean. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
very hard, but I wouldn't recommend it. I'd be much happier going down to 2 or 1 book a year and then really enjoying the writing of it. But I've set up a book coach writing mentor business, and that is helping me to be able to write fewer books, I hope, eventually. Yeah.
1 book a
So
year is quite an accomplishment.
yeah, but it would be
So
lovely. 1 book a year would be my dream. That would be so
so
nice.
tell us a little bit about your journey, because you started, am I correct? You started with historical fiction?
Yeah, yeah, I still write that, but yeah, it was all about finances, and again, very much about midlife. I write about women who are very not me, they're not me, but they're in a similar situation often. And so in my 40s, as I say, became a lone parent and had to make a living, went back to teaching. And at that time, I'd had 3 historical novels out, and they got lovely reviews and everything, and that was under my own name of Rebecca Mascull. But they just didn't earn me enough money. So I
Mhm.
so I got a new agent around that time, and I said to her, I have to earn more money from my writing, otherwise I'm going to have to give it up because, as you know, it takes a long time to write a book,
Yeah.
and it has to be cost effective, So and I wasn't making enough money. So first of all, she suggested writing what's in the UK is called saga fiction. So I don't even know if you have anything that's exactly the same because it's a very British thing, but it's multi-generational family dramas that take place sort of each book might be like 10 years later or 20 years later and you go to the next generation. And in the UK, those are much more commercial than your average historical fiction book, which was what I was writing. So I just treated it like an analysis task that I used to do when I was a media studies teacher many years ago and just analyze saga books. I read a load of saga books, I analyzed the conventions, and I thought, what's happening here? What are the ingredients that make a good saga book? And what do I like? What have I read that I like, that I don't like? How do I want my saga books to be? And thus, my first sort of pen name was Molly Walton, which was the saga books that I was writing, and they took off and they did well. And so, for example, the first Molly Walton book that came out sold more in the first month than all three of my books put together over several years. So, like,
Wow.
we knew we were onto the right thing. So we started doing that, and that we did a few books for Molly Walton, and I still write Molly Walton books. But then the pandemic happened, and one of my books was delayed for 6 months, the publication, because of a paper shortage, bizarrely. And my agent said to me, right, you've got a spare 6 months. I want you to have a break. And I was like, yeah, well, sleep is for losers. I just want to write something else. But, what editors, what are they asking for at the moment? And she said, well, rom-coms. Editors want rom-coms. So I'd never really considered writing anything like that. I love watching rom-coms, particularly. Like When Harry Met Sally is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And at that time, so it was in 2020, and I just finished at a relationship, and I started internet dating, but it was during the pandemic. So I mean, internet dating is insane anyway, but it was even more weird doing it during a pandemic, where you couldn't actually meet people, and they could lie and gaslight you, and be catfish and all that sort of stuff. And it
Yeah.
was just insane, but it was also insanely funny, because of this whole weird world of internet dating. And I said to her, well, I could write something about a woman in her 50s dating, if you like. And
Yeah.
she was like, oh, yeah, you should do that. Go away and, think about it. And that's how Divorce Not Dead came about, because it was happening to me. So I thought, well, and what I was also doing was putting stuff on Facebook, my private Facebook. I was not people's names or photos or anything, I would scrub all that out or cut that out. But I was just the weird messages that I got and the bizarre profiles that you saw, on Tinder or wherever it was. And I would put these on Facebook, and just like, because there was just comedy gold, this maddest world that I was in. And people on Facebook were just, like, it's 100 likes, 200 likes, and I was just messaging me and saying, this is the funniest thing ever. You must write about this. So this all kind of came together at the same time. And I said to my agent, I'm just going to write it like I would speak to like a friend. I hope that's
Right.
okay. And
Yeah.
she was just like, I said, because I don't know how to write a rom-com. But I did the same thing that I did with the saga books, which is that I just read a load of rom-coms. And again, I started choosing which ones do I like, which don't I like, and how do I want my rom-com to be. And I certainly didn't want it to be twee, kind of like cozy. And I didn't want it to be too spicy either, because I hate writing about sex. It's just so cringy and embarrassing. So I kind of wanted to be somewhere in the middle, but also I just wanted to be not myself, because these characters are not me, but I wanted to speak like a normal person. So not like prose fiction, I wanted to be able to swear and say things that we say and use sort of internet language and messaging and all the kind of thing. It's the fabric of our everyday life, And that's how I wrote Divorce Not Dead. I had no idea whether anyone would like it. I thought they'd send it back and say, far too much swearing, it doesn't read like a book. And but we got a deal with HarperCollins, and I couldn't believe it. So
Yeah.
they gave me a 2-book deal, and the second book was Hot Not Bothered.
Hot Not Bothered.
And yeah, and it did really well. The first book did really well. So after that, I had no idea really what they wanted me to write next, because the only thing had been, let's write this book about dating, but I didn't have any plans really. And they actually told me, would you like to write one about menopause? So it was my
They
publisher.
did.
Yeah, it was my
I'm
publisher.
so
And
glad to hear that.
yeah, because I just didn't really have a clue what I wanted to do next, because Harper Ford was so odd, just her voice and everything was so different from stuff that I'd read. I just thought, well, we can't just do another novel with Frankie, who's the narrator of Divorce Not Dead. We can't just do another one like Frankie with a different name, but the same voice. So we've got to come up with something that is Harper Ford. And I think what we did was we decided that really my publisher came up with the phrase taboo busting. So the idea was that she just tells the truth, because that's what
Yeah.
Divorce Not Dead was like. She tells the truth about how funny dating is, but also how awful it can be sometimes. There's some really quite sad, distressing scenes in Divorce Not Dead as well, because it can be so difficult. So, and
And
she
so
does it.
Harper Ford is telling the truth about menopause then in this book.
Yeah. So this was the idea that, and they knew that I'd been through menopause myself. So that's how it came about. And I was happy to do that. Although I remember thinking at the time, how the hell can I make this funny? Because it's just so awful. My menopause is so awful. And I just thought, right, I've just got to do the same thing, which is to be truthful about the really embarrassing stuff, that we just don't talk about. And I've
Which
got
you do. I mean,
sorry,
you
go
have
on.
a farting scene in like the
I do.
first. You have that made me laugh out loud because I mean,
Good.
there is so much we know about the hot flashes and we
Yeah,
know about,
exactly. Yeah,
the weight gain, but there are
yeah.
so many things in
So
this
many
book
others.
that just I didn't even know, I didn't
Yeah,
even expect to resonate with me. I mean, oh, I'm not the only one who's going through that or what
yeah,
have you.
exactly. Yeah,
Did
and
you so
sorry, go
obviously
on.
it's you did some research
I
to this
did as
book.
well. Yeah, I mean, I had
Yeah.
my own experiences, but I was also very aware that every woman goes through it in a totally different way.
Yeah.
It's not like there's and like Heidi says with the email, it's hot flashes or flushes, whether however you say it, is one thing, and not everyone gets it. Like, I haven't had a
Yeah.
huge problem with those. I do get them sometimes, but I know some people, who are just like Joy, I think is in the book, just dripping with sweat, and it's horrific, and it's so difficult. And other women who've had all these other things that you don't even know happen during menopause, And so I just lined up a bunch of friends and just said, can I interview you for the book? And also Facebook friends and people like that. And just, if someone was talking about Facebook on, talking about menopause on Facebook, I just message them and say, I'm writing a book about it. Can I interview you? And everyone said yes. Everyone's been so, generous, because, but I think because women want to talk about it, because people aren't talking about it. So
Yeah.
I found out so much more about, all the different ways that menopause can affect your body and your mind, which was another big one, was that people don't talk enough about how it affects you mentally, as well as
Yeah.
physically. So, yeah, I learned a huge amount. There's some really quite obscure sounding things in there, but the more women I talked to, the more I realized that they weren't actually obscure. They were very common. But I would say that the resounding facts that came across out of all my research was, well, firstly, how different it was for everyone, but secondly, how utterly woefully ignorant the medical profession was about menopause. And that just gave me a rage. It really gave me a rage. And that's something that I found. I don't know about you, as I've
Yeah.
hit my 50s. I'm 54 now. And it was almost like the day I turned 50, but it was brewing in my 40s. Just this massive rage about, I think I felt okay about feminism and misogyny and things like that. Wasn't too bad about it when I was younger. It was always better than it used to be. And
Yeah.
but as I've got older as a woman, I see it more and more. I've got a radar for it now that perhaps I didn't have when I was younger, or perhaps I was just more apologetic for my existence when I was younger. And now
Yeah.
I just have this radar for it, and it gives me an absolute rage and anger. And I wanted to put that into the book, and I think I did. I think I did it.
Yeah, you definitely did. You've got one member of the support group who has a who is noted for her rage, and then
Yeah,
you've got portions where Heidi finds herself
yeah,
flaring, and then
mm,
you have scenes where Heidi, in the best way possible, just uses it,
yeah.
to her advantage. And there's a scene where she tells a man towards the end, where she tells a rude man in a restaurant off,
Oh yeah,
on behalf of a waitress, that I
yeah,
just was like, "I hope I can channel that someday,"
yeah,
because we've all been in those situations where
mm,
we've witnessed rudeness, or we've witnessed a man mansplaining
yeah,
something,
yeah,
and she's just like, she's got no more F's to give, and she's just like, "Look."
yeah.
And then there's several scenes where, she comes back at men, for calling her hysterical, or don't get,
Mm,
and I loved so much about that,
yeah,
because we all dream about that, whether we
yeah,
get to the point where we can do it or not. I mean, I like to say I'm in my fuck it 50s, because,
yeah. Me
you're
too.
running, you're, you're running out of
Yeah.
fucks to give, but, I
Oh,
just, yeah,
completely.
I
And I've
love.
seen things like that happen as well. I saw a guy like that in a restaurant. That's not actually the specific scene, but and I did
Yeah.
say something, and I'm really glad I did. I didn't have a magnificent rant. I never have the magnificent rants in real life that my characters do because I haven't got time to write it. But also, I'm terrified of conflict. I hate conflict, so I tend to
Yeah.
avoid those situations as much as possible. But my characters just don't care. They don't give a fuck, as you say, and I just love that for them. And I think it's nice to read it. It's a channel for us to read
Yeah.
that and think, okay, next time I see an injustice, I'm going to speak out about it, and I don't care. And I think that's, if I could sum up Harper Ford characters, they are in transition from caring about everything in their life, caring for their families, their friends, their children, everything, their parents, through to actually keeping that love and everything, but then getting to a point where you don't actually care what people think anymore. And I think Harper Ford characters are always on that cusp of kind of like, do you know what? I just don't give a fuck anymore. I'm just going to say what I think. And I don't care what people say back to me. Like, I don't care what they think at all about me, what my
Exactly.
choices or what I want to do. And that's terribly freeing. So I think that's the kind of other side of menopause. The symptoms and the huge change in your life that can happen for a lot of women
Yeah.
is very
Well, it's
difficult. But
I
there's a
mean,
positive side to it, I think, as well.
I think so too. And we know it's a time of transition, but we tend to culturally, and just, it's been ingrained in us that transition is primarily physical. But
Mm,
it's so much more than physical.
mm,
It's intellectual, it's emotional, and it's
mm.
social. And one of the things that you talk about in this book, that you handle really beautifully, I think, is the friendship that develops among these women, which is great, but that they don't even know that they were missing.
Yes.
And
Mm,
I think, it's quite it's understandable why this happens. If you're a parent, or if the the years between 20 and 50 in particular are so, heavy with achievement, and
mm,
just survival. You're trying to start a career, and then you're trying to get launched in your career, and get grounded in
mm,
your career, and get ahead in your career. And at the same time, you're pumping out babies, and you're trying to
mm.
raise these human beings, and you're trying to make a relationship work, and something
Yeah.
has to give. And what
Yeah.
tends to give is relationships in different ways. You
Mm,
either lose touch with people, or you lose, track of what you really need. And I thought that you handled that beautifully. In fact, I was having a conversation, or I was reading a comment, but one of our readers, and she
mm,
said she thought that that the description of the book just, woefully underrepresented so much of what was, strong about the book, and, like, namely the issue that you tackle, and the relationships, and how you do that. She was like,
mm.
this book was so much more than I expected."
Oh,
It's
bless. Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
so,
Mm,
and I think that, there were lots of scenes, particularly when the women are supporting each other in this group, that I thought, you know, this is really one of the beautiful parts about transition, because
mm,
I personally, just as of this week, my husband and I are empty nesters. The youngest of our 3 went away to college, and
Right.
so, um, I'm feeling that loss and transition,
Yes.
acutely right now,
Mm,
and it's
mm,
so we have to find ourselves again at this point in our lives in a much
mm.
different way. So I loved that part of the
Thank you.
book. Yeah, you
Yeah.
handled it really well.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, that friendship group, I mean, I'd love to have a group like that with you.
Yeah,
I don't know, I don't think I've ever had a group like that, except perhaps work colleagues, when you've been in a difficult job together and you've all bonded because it's a tough job, that kind of reminds me of that because they're all in the trenches, those
yeah,
women. And that's the only thing that they have in common, really. I wanted to make them all as different as possible because that's how I feel often unlikely friendships come about. Under any other circumstance, you wouldn't probably even know that person or
mhm,
connect with them. But everyone can connect over this,
yeah,
and and also about how different it is, and just learning to appreciate people's difference as well. So I really like the fact that there was one character who was very much, it must be medicine based. Another character was very much wanted a kind of alternative medicine base, but neither are right or wrong. Both kind of started out here and then ended up sort of here, so that
yeah,
they could both see each sides for each other, and that's really nice. It doesn't happen that often in real
yeah,
life. So
no,
yeah, I think those friendships are very important, and I think you're right. They're easy to let slide, But again, that's another thing I think in my 50s that I found is that the people that I'm surrounded by and the people that I want to be surrounded by are dwindling in a way, but in a good way that I'm realizing who I want to have around. Do you know what I
right.
mean? Whereas
Yeah,
when you're
we're
in your
wiser
20s,
about who we give
yeah,
our energy to. Yeah,
absolutely. And we make those choices over after years and decades of, bad choices where we've
yeah,
kept people in our lives who, suck joy out of our lives in
yeah,
one way or another. And
yeah,
I think when you get to your 50s, again, you just think, do you know what? Life's too short. And this person is just not bringing anything to my life. And I don't want to have them in my life anymore. And that could be
yeah,
someone that you know at work, or it could be a friend, or it could even be a family member for some people, that
yeah,
and that it's okay to just say, do you know what? I'm just stepping away from that relationship. And there's something about, the battle of menopause, I think as well. It's a battle for a lot of women. For some women not, but for many it is. And you come through that, you're battle worn,
yeah,
but you also, you come through it and you're victorious, and that you've got the rest of your life. And I know the other thing I wanted to show, you were saying earlier about so many books not showing that women in their 50s experience, was that a lot of women at that age have a renaissance, which is really
yeah,
beautiful to see. And that's something I really noticed when I was dating, was that the men my age that I was talking to were so negative about the rest of their lives. They were talking about they couldn't wait for retirement, and they just hated their jobs and they hated this and hated that, and saw that the rest of their lives would be a decline. And yet the women that I was talking to, friends of mine who were my age, were starting their own businesses and,
yeah,
meeting new people and taking up new interests and things like that. And I just thought there was a massive mismatch. And this is a
yeah,
totally non-scientific experiment, but it's just what I found personally, that kind of attitude from those men was a real turn off. If you know what I mean. It was really like,
absolutely.
what, really? Is that how you see your life? As just like a downhill slide to death?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
because
where's the
I'd
adventure?
yeah,
Yeah,
and
what am
I'd
I
had
supposed to do? Just care for you until the end?
exactly, yeah, and
Yeah,
I had a friend who died of cancer in her late 40s, and in fact, I've had 2 friends in my life that have died of cancer in their 40s, and it really brought it home to me that there's no time to mess around. The stuff that I wanna do, I need to do it now, and
yeah,
not wait, because when is it gonna happen? It's gotta happen now. So, like I
yeah,
said, I've just started my own business, and I have dwindling energy. I have chronic illness, but I'm not going to let that stop me, because
no,
mentally I'm probably more alive and more awake than I ever have been. I just feel like, I have some wisdom, I guess, from all the years that I've spent on this earth. And I just I want to meet new people. I want to talk to people. I want to help younger people. or new writers. It might not even be younger people, like emerging writers, just get so much pleasure out of passing on what I've learned to other
Yeah.
people. And this to me is a renaissance. It's not the end, it's the beginning of something really beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in agreement with you, and I want to keep chatting about this. But before we wrap up, I want to remind people that if they have questions for you directly, to type them into the chat. And I'm hoping I'm seeing the chat. Do I have to do anything special to
I don't
see
know.
that?
Right, just between me and you and everyone on this live Substack in the world. I don't think we get to see the comments apart from if they pop up the screen. So it might be best if people leave a comment when you post it. You
Okay.
can, so when it's actually posted on Substack, they can comment on it there rather than on the live chat. Because I guess you'll probably send this out as a recording afterwards as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they can reply to you by email, or they can, when you post it on Substack, they can comment on there.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so disappointing because I was hoping people could ask you questions live.
I think they
Okay.
can. Yeah, they
Okay.
can. You can put a comment on, but it doesn't stay afterwards. That's all I'm saying. Like, we could see it now,
Oh, we
but it
can see it
doesn't.
now.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can see it now. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. Because so I wanted to say if you are on here and you have a question that you want Becca to answer live, go ahead and put it
Sure.
in there. And then, okay. Okay, good. That was my concern.
Yeah.
So I know as we're waiting for questions to come in, I love your attitude about this. I love that your publisher suggested menopause. I
Mm.
love that Harper Ford's brand is, what did you call it? Um,
Taboo busting.
taboo busting,
Yeah,
telling the
it's
truth
good.
about things.
Yeah.
And I know that you have a new book coming up. So,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about your new book.
Well, on this, it's again on this sort of theme of, it's contemporary issues. Really, this wasn't the plan at the beginning, but it's kind of how Harper Ford has grown, if you like, and evolved. Is to take on contemporary issues that people are talking about or need to talk about, and doing a kind of deep dive into that issue, but with humor and with heart as well. And so my next book, I've got a copy here, is about the wellness industry. So again, this was my publisher's choice, but I was so glad that they did ask me to do that, because I had actually been listening to quite a few podcasts about this, and it was really winding me up. I was just getting really angry about it again. There's that rage again. And I listened to a great podcast called Maintenance Phase, which is all about the
I
diet
love that
industry.
podcast.
Oh, it's so good, isn't it? I
Yeah,
love it.
the host duo is so good. The
So good. Oh,
interplay between the hosts.
Aubrey, isn't it? Aubrey Gordon and
Yeah.
Michael Hobbs. And
Yeah.
they just rip apart, the wellness industry bullshit. And I love them for it. And then
Yeah.
my publisher said, do you want to do wellness next? And I was just like, hell yeah. And this is this is the next one. So this is called Live, Laugh, Leave Me Alone. And I really wanted to call it Live, Laugh, Fuck Off, but they wouldn't let me. So, but that that is in there somewhere. And it's again a harried middle-aged woman, who's just really fed up. But it's really, her name is Lucy. I'm looking down on it because again I can't even remember it, even though I wrote it this year. And yeah, she's a career woman, and she's looking forward to a promotion. And then this perfect woman joins the firm and is her competition, and is madly into wellness. So somehow Lucy ends up getting herself into some kind of crazy wellness boot camp that she has to do to try and get this promotion at work. So, and that's all I'm going to tell you, because there's a lot more to it, but it is a deep dive into the madness of the wellness industry. And when I started researching it again, I knew what I knew about it, which is that, if I was scrolling through Instagram, I'd be getting hundreds of ridiculous messages about menopause, menopause, menopause. Have you
Yeah.
bought this? It's only like £100 for, 10 grams. And it was like, shut up. Just like none of that stuff works. And they were just grifters all. And they were drowning out the real help that some people could get from stuff that does actually help people. And it made me really ragey and angry. And I thought, right, here we go, and just got on with it, because all of my rage about the wellness industry and the bullshit of it comes through in this book. So So again, it's just that targeting middle-aged women who they see as slightly kind of stupid or frail or something, and I think there's a bit in the book where it talks about I remember seeing on Facebook, and it was only a couple of years ago, and it was an advertisement for a kind of exercising app, and it had different pictures for different age women, and they were cartoons. And it was a woman in her 20s and 30s, so she was all like cool and sort of lithe, and it got up to 50s to 60s. And it's so funny you mentioned Miss Marple earlier, because that's exactly what the cartoon picture looked like, of a woman in her 50s. And I'm 54, and it was pearls, twin set, what we call a twin set. It was like a little jacket, a little skirt, and flat shoes and pearls and a little white, curly bob. And I was like, who the hell is that? That's not
That's
me.
54 too.
Yeah, that's not anyone I know. And it
No.
was like, take a seat and sit down, because I was just like, how dare you?
Yeah.
It made me so angry. And I think I actually mentioned that in the books. That's real, that I saw. And that was only about 2 years ago.
The Golden Girls were in their 50s.
Oh my God.
I know.
I didn't realize that.
I'm so glad that we're
No.
changing this,
Yes.
this
Thank God.
this just absolutely ridiculous
It's
stereotype.
crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Hair dye is better now, but
It
anyway.
is, yeah. Yeah, but just shocking that that's the way that some companies still see women in their 50s. As again, it's kind of like you're not young and beautiful in the sense
No.
of kind of, young and ripe, like you were, and you're not a little old granny. Like, just like you said, you're somewhere in between, and therefore you're invisible and or useless. You're not a mum anymore, and you're not a granny necessarily yet. So who are you, Liz? What's the point of you? And so we just disappear.
I like to say that we get powerful.
Oh,
And when you get
definitely.
powerful, people get afraid of you. Just like
Yeah,
witches.
for real. For real. Yeah.
Embrace your inner witch. Do you have a
Yeah.
release date for the book?
Yes, it's this month. No, well, in just 26 days. It's the 25th of September. Yeah, that's
In
what it
the
is.
US
Yeah.
and the UK?
I don't know. I think so. I should have found that out, shouldn't I? But yeah, you can have a look for it. It usually comes
Yeah.
out around the same time, but I'll
Oh,
let you
that's
know.
great. Oh, that
Yeah.
is so fantastic.
Thank you.
Oh, I just wanna thank you again for your time. We've gone a little bit over. And again,
That's fine.
apologies to my West Coasters. I did the math wrong on the time. I was doing 2 time zones at once, and I so
Don't worry.
apologize. I mean, talk about menopause brain.
Yeah.
It was just
Yep.
a, manifestation of that.
Yeah.
And, before we go, I wanna thank everybody for joining us, or if you're watching this video, and I want to invite you to join us at the Middle Book Club if you want. And we have a growing and ever more lively group, and it's so fun to we talk about community, and books build community. Books
They
bring
really
people
do.
together, and the
Yeah.
community of women who have come together to read these books exclusively about midlife heroines.
Yeah.
It's just like in Hot Not Bothered. We all have the same experiences. We're all going
Yeah.
through the same stuff, and we've all come together to
Yeah.
have a good laugh and have a good time and support each other and meet some new people. So,
And
join
remember
us.
that we do
Yeah,
exist. We are here. And
we
we
do.
are doing amazing things. We're not dead yet. You know
So
what I mean?
please pick up this if you haven't already. If you're not already reading it with us, pick up the book, Hot Not Bothered, and then give it to a friend and tell her,
Oh,
a
bless
midlife
you.
friend, and say, "You've got to read this book. Let's pass it along." We are meeting live tomorrow night, which is Thursday, August 28th, I want to say, at 7 p.m. Central. So I'm going to let you do the time change. But you can find the Zoom link on the Substack page for the Middle Book Club, or you can just go to the middlebookclub.com and it'll take you to the same place. But is there anything else that you would like to say before we say goodbye?
I just want to say thank you. Just thank you so much for, having American readers is so wonderful. And I love you guys. And I'm just so happy that you're finding the book. You never know as an author. We were talking about this earlier, Gretchen, weren't we? You just never know what's happening with your
Yeah.
books. And then randomly you'll get some someone will send you a picture of your book and it's like in Singapore or like in Minnesota or something, and you're like, I had no idea that my book was there. Like, and that is just such a thrill for me to know that this is reaching out to women in particular. But I do have some male readers, and I have had some great messages from male readers saying, I'm so glad I read this book. Like, I understand my wife now, or I understand my girlfriend or my sister or my mum, or, and I'm like, wow, that is brilliant. If that's helping those women, because the men in their life understand what's going on, So, yeah, just thank you to all of you. And you're doing a brilliant thing, highlighting books by women our age about women our age as well, which is really important. So, and thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
having me.
Please keep reading them because we need more books for our book club.
Yes, I
Or, I mean,
will.
please keep writing them.
I will. No problem. Got to make a living.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. It's late for Becca, so we're going to let her sign off.
Okay.
And I want to thank everybody for joining us live. This is
Yeah.
my first Substack Live. I usually go on
Yay.
Zoom, so this
Oh,
has been fun. Thank
good.
you, everybody, and we'll see you.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you again. Take care, Becca.
Bye. Bye, Gretchen. Bye.
Bye.